Hi everyone, welcome back to the Anthony podcast. And today I'm joined by Gregg Evans from the Athletic. So enjoy. Today, Greg,
I'm very good, Anthony. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
I'm all right, mate. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're
That,
welcome.
so, so for the people that don't know, you work for the Athletic. So how did you get involved? First of all, what made you want to start getting into journalism? And how did you get started up at the Athletics?
Yeah, sure. So the Athletic are a sports news-based subscription service in America, and we have an office in London. And I've been working for the Athletic for nearly 4 years now. And my previous job was working for the Birmingham Mail, the newspaper in Birmingham, where I also wrote about football. So yeah, I grew up liking football and golf and a few other sports, and I decided that I wasn't quite good enough to become a professional footballer or a professional golfer. So I wanted to stay in sport and see what if I could if I could stay in the industry somehow. And I decided that I would like to write about sport and golf and football. And that's how I became a reporter.
You know, so when you when you first broke into the industry, I imagine you had to write like a sample piece. So can you remember that piece?
The first piece I wrote.
Yeah, because I imagine when you first break into the industry, they obviously want to see what you can do, what you
Yeah.
can do.
Yes. So I was on a college course at Sutton Coldfield College when I was 19 and 20 years old. And an opportunity came on the local newspaper to me. I'm from Solihull, and we had a local newspaper then called Solihull News, which was a part of Trinity Mirror, which was the group. And I went to the interview and met my first, who turned out to be my first editor. His name was Ross Crawford. He interviewed me for the job, and it was to be a sports reporter and a news reporter at the time. So I would spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday writing about local news in Solihull, and then I'd spend Friday and Saturday writing about sport in Solihull. So I got the job. They took a gamble on me, and I worked for 18 months for Solihull News before moving to Birmingham Mail.
So if if you look if you look at your if you look at your work from the Daily Mail, I think it's and you look at your work from the sorry, let me start again. If you look at your work from the Daily Mail and you compare it to your work now, how would you say you improved on your work?
Yeah, so it was the Birmingham Mail, the local newspaper, and
Apologies.
no problem, Anthony. And yeah. So I think just over time you gain a little bit more experience and you become more confident in what you're writing. So when I first started, my articles were probably not quite as good as they are now. They probably didn't have as much depth and detail to them. Um, and yeah, I think it's just with anything. If you work in an industry for quite a long time, you just become better at your job. So yeah, I think I've improved a fair bit over the years.
Did you have a mentor like
Uh,
somebody?
yeah. So when I started working at the Birmingham Mail, I would go to I would cover a different team each week. So one week I would cover Wolverhampton Wanderers, then it would be West Brom, then it would be Aston Villa, then Birmingham, and sometimes Walsall. So I went to a different game or a different club every week. Now at that stage, there was a specific writer for each club. So I remember Colin Tatham, who was the Birmingham City writer at the time. and also Bill Howell, who was the Wolverhampton Wanderers writer at the time. The two of those people I was very close with, and they helped me. Colin in particular, he taught me about how to build relationships with people at football clubs, how to report accurately and deal with some of the more difficult scenarios that you might come across as a football journalist. So yeah, I learned a lot from him. And then as I got a little bit older, I worked with some other people who also helped me along the way as well.
So if we move forward a little bit, how did you get started with the Athletic?
Yeah, so I got a phone call from the current editor. It was in July 2019. Aston Villa had just been promoted to the Premier League from the Championship.
Yeah.
And the editor called me and he'd said that he'd looked at some of my work and that he was impressed with it and told me about the Athletic and the project that they were starting, and asked me if I wanted to come along and be the Aston Villa reporter, because they were pleased with that. They were impressed with my work from previous years.
So when you're covering Aston Villa, did you might sound a bit weird, but what is your style like? Do you try and make it a bit like? Do you try and make it a bit more comedic, or are you very like serious? If you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not very funny, so I have to stay with the serious side of things. Yeah, I can't. I typically don't tend to make people laugh, so I stick to the serious reporting. Yeah, if that makes sense. I just try to give the people that read my articles some information that they might not already know from elsewhere. And yeah, just try to tell the story. If I'm doing an interview with a player or a manager, I will try to tell their story through the way I write. But then we do lots of different type of articles. Sometimes the articles are more about explaining a certain incident that might have happened at the club, or a change that will be happening at the clubs, and so yeah, it's a wide variety of articles, but I think I'm more serious than funny.
So obviously, when you're doing a serious story, as a journalist or as a writer, I do apologies. I do approach a story like that, because obviously it can be really uncomfortable depending on what the story is. As a writer, how do you choose to cover that?
Yeah, of course, it depends the topic that you're covering. I always say that when I'm reporting on a football club that are performing well and when they are winning a lot of games, it's always a lot easier, because the stories are typically positive. The players and the manager and staff at the club are more willing to talk at that point because the team is doing well, and it's good to share some of the positive stories. It always becomes a lot more harder for a journalist when you're writing about negative stories or something that's upsetting or traumatic. I always try to put myself in their shoes almost. So if I'm writing about an individual, I try to think about what it would mean if I was reading this, if I was reading the article about me. So you always have to be fair and balanced. I think you have to make sure that you get all of your facts correct before you write anything, and you have to double check and triple check and quadruple check important bits of information, because a lot of the articles that I write are getting viewed by thousands and thousands of people. So if there's an inaccuracy in there, it can be very damaging for people or a club or an organization that I'm talking about. So the key really is to make sure you get all the facts correct, and you make sure that you're writing something that's very balanced also.
Right, your whole career, yeah. Obviously, doing what you do must take a while to build up credibility. So when did you feel like I don't want to say I made it, but at least people give me some sort of credibility. 'Cause at first, I imagine, well, I know it takes a while to build up credibility.
Yeah, no, I still don't really feel like I'm at that point. I feel like, yes, I know a lot of people read my articles, but you know, I don't feel that I'm at the point where I've made it, so to speak. I try to improve every day. I try to listen and learn to other people, but I think the key to building up a bit of credibility is producing good quality content on a regular basis, making sure that it's accurate and that you don't get that you limit the amount of mistakes that you make. It, you know, obviously every journalist along the lines, somewhere along the lines, will make a mistake. It's just, you know, we are all human, but I think it's obviously keeping those to a minimum, and just building contacts and making sure that you can become trustworthy, because you know, a lot of the articles that you write and a lot of the stories that you produce are based on information that's provided by people who are trusted in your inner circle. So yeah, it's very important to maintain strong relationships with people.
Yeah. So you also interview players. You also interview the players and the manager. So I do apologies. When you interview, obviously people can be very guarded. So,
Yeah.
so how do you get them to open up to you at least to some degree?
Excuse me. Yeah, I think again it's about having that trust, and just you have to be very well prepared. I found when I first started doing interviews when I was younger, I used to be very nervous going before the interviews, and I maybe over prepared a little bit too much. So I used to write down all of my questions that I wanted to ask, and I found over time that it's sometimes better to just write a few bullet points of just topics that you want to talk about, rather than having a specific list of questions. I just found that over time I became more comfortable looking at a notepad and looking at a few topics, but then just trying to let the conversation flow a little bit. I always feel that, look, you know, I don't try to turn any player over or anyone I do an interview with. I'm quite open and honest with them. I'll say to them in advance, look, I'd like to talk about these topics today. There might be a couple of topics that you're not too comfortable with, but you know, let's have a conversation about it, see what you think, and then go from there. But it's just trying to build the trust, and showing that you can also tell their side of the story. Something that you write, you know, it doesn't always have to be particularly negative. I mean, all of the interviews I do, I try to find a positive spin on things, because I feel that if somebody's comfortable talking to me about something positive, then they'll come back and do it again.
So obviously with social media, you can get a lot of the fans' perspective. So with some of your questions, do you try and implement what the fans are feeling at that time?
Yeah. Look, it's very important to understand how supporters of the club that you are covering are feeling. You know, there are always big talking points that the fans are discussing throughout the season. And the players, look, you know, the players will know about it, because like me and you, Anthony, you know, we're on social media, and so are the players. You know, they read everything about themselves, about the club as well, and if there are big talking points, they're aware of that. So yeah, sometimes, you know, there are things that the fans want answering, that I will ask towards the players and the manager.
Yeah. Do you have a do you feel, does it feel, obviously when you're interviewing a player, it's obviously different to interviewing a manager, but for you as an interviewer, do you have a different approach, or do you just keep the same approach, or does it depend on the topic?
Yeah, it depends on the topic sometimes. I mean, every week the manager at every football club in the Premier League and the Championship and all across the Football League. They will have what's called a press conference. So all the journalists from the different, all the journalists from the different publications and media companies will go to either the training ground or the stadium and speak to the manager. And you'll be in a big room together, so you all have a chance to ask a couple of questions. But typically what happens with players is you get a bit more time with them on, one-to-one. So you can sort of set your own agenda, really. If for example, if I was to interview, the Aston Villa captain, John McGinn, or the defender, Tyrone Mings, or any of the other players, I'd spend a little bit of time researching that particular player. And I'd try and think of 3 or 4 really important or interesting topics to talk to them during the interview. So you tend to get a bit more time with the players when you get them, and the manager is often more in a big group.
Yeah. So obviously sometimes the press conference can go in really weird directions. As somebody that is a journalist, obviously sometimes I do just go with the flow. So if you have a question, if you have a question prepared, you can tell the way the press conference is going, it's probably not the best question to ask.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah,
So how do you approach something like that?
It's difficult, because sometimes there are tough questions that you have to ask. That I've been in many press conferences when the manager of the team is under a lot of pressure, and you have to ask them why. Why the team are losing, what's going on, what's wrong, why is this happening, how are you going to fix it? And these are difficult questions for a manager to answer when they are under pressure. But there are also other topics that can be asked that are are uncomfortable and it's hard. But sometimes you just have to ask those questions, and other times you have to be very persistent in it. If there's a question that needs asking and the manager or the player that you're interviewing doesn't answer the question, sometimes you have to ask it again. And it does become awkward and it does become difficult, but that is just part of the job at times.
As somebody that just watching the press conferences, I feel like sometimes I understand your position, and obviously as a journalist, but I feel like sometimes they ask the same questions every single week rather than asking something creative or interesting.
It can go a little bit that way because there are some topics that you have to always ask about. You have to ask about the team news. Is there any injuries to any players? How important is this game ahead that you've got? What are you going to find out about the opponents that you're playing? There are a lot of boring questions that get repeated amongst some journalists and reporters. At the Athletic, we tend to focus more on individual topics or talking points. So a lot of the time the questions that I ask will be focused around one topic. So next week I might be writing about set pieces, or next week I might be writing about Aston Villa's defence or an individual player. So typically my questions tend to be a little bit left field compared to some of the more basic ones. But you're right, they can get a little bit boring. I think you find that on TV, don't you? When you're watching TV interviews, they're all the same boring questions.
So a couple more questions, like 2 or 3 more, and then I'll wrap it up really quick.
No rush, that's fine.
So obviously Unai Emery's coming this season, and the Villa are doing really well. So obviously when Unai Emery was first appointed, because of his time at Arsenal, obviously there was a lot of questions surrounding Unai. So as a journalist, your first interaction with him, obviously I imagine it was quite important for you to set out a good starting block with him in particular.
Yeah, yeah. As I said previously, there's been a lot of Villa managers now that that have been in the job as during my time covering the club. So I remember back to Emery's first day. It was back in the back end of October, and he started on the 1st of November, and he held a press conference. It was called an unveiling press conference,
Yeah.
where the manager is unveiled to officially to the club. And at those press conferences, you tend to get a lot more people there. So I think there was about 50 or 60 people there on that day, whereas usually before a game, there's only maybe 10 to 15. So yeah, it's a first opportunity to sort of tell the manager who you are, give him those first impressions. I think it's quite hard for the manager at that point, because if there's 50 or 60 people in the room, he's not going to remember everybody's name in that one day. So it's something that you have to build up over time. But yeah, I think first impressions are important. If you go steaming in with a crazy question on that very first day, you might think, who the hell's this guy? But yeah, I remember that press conference was quite tame, to be honest. Villa were in a difficult situation. They were just 3 points off the bottom, and obviously Emery came in and he explained how the Arsenal experience for him ended in a bit of a disappointing manner. But he really wanted to come back to the Premier League and show how good he was as a manager.
I bet you're slightly looking forward to in the future. I personally think next season the Villa will finish in the European places. So as a writer, I bet you sort of hope the Villa do get into Europe, so you can go and cover them around obviously Europe.
Yeah, it would be amazing. I've only had really one European experience, and that was when Birmingham City were in the UEFA Cup, was it, or Europa League? Yeah, Europa League.
Yeah.
When they won the 2011 Carling Cup final. So yeah, that was when I was working at the Birmingham Mail. So I haven't actually covered Villa in Europe. So that would be really exciting if they could finish in the top 7 this year. That'd be great. If not next year, something to look forward to.
So my last and final question: What do you want your legacy to be as a writer or as a journalist?
Oh wow, that's a tough one. I honestly haven't. Good question, Anthony. You want to take my job? I honestly haven't thought of. Haven't thought of that really about the future. I just try to do the best job I can do, every day or on a weekly basis. If there are people that sign up and read my work regularly, then great. Hopefully, I can give them a bit of insight that they don't get from elsewhere. But no, I honestly don't think that deeply. Sorry, I know it's a bit of a crap answer, but I don't think that deeply, I'm afraid, mate. So I just get on with it each day.
It's okay. So thank you for coming on. Do you want to promote your either any work you've got coming out or your socials?
Oh yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants to follow me, they can get me on Twitter at Gregg Evans 40. And then for those people who are interested in reading some of the football content, you can visit www.theathletic.com.
Okay, so thank you for watching, everybody, and I will speak to you later. Have a good day.
And Anthony, have you got quick time for me to ask you one question?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
And so how long have you been doing the podcast for, and are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a couple of years. Normally I'm a lot more prepared, but unfortunately I've had a lot of stuff going on in the last couple of days, so it's been a bit all over the place. Okay,
that's good. No, it's fine. Your questions were very good, so you sounded like you were well prepared. And is there anything I can do to help in the future?
No, I can't think of anything at the moment. All right. Thank you for the offer, though.
No problem. If you need anything, you know where to get me on. Message me, all right?
Oh, yeah, no worries, mate. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say, you didn't doing another podcast with a friend of mine, Chad Williams.
Oh, Chad, yes.
Yeah. So that's where I got you. That's where I saw you from first.
Ah, nice. Yeah, nice guy, Chad. And
Yeah.
have you spend a bit of time together, do you? You do things
We
as friends?
we used to go to secondary school together.
Ah, right, okay. And what age are you now?
I am 27 years old.
Ah, okay. And Chad's the same age, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will let you go now, mate. Because it is 12 o'clock, and I do remember
Yeah.
you saying you only had half an hour.
I do, yeah. Thanks ever so much, Anthony. No, it's been really nice to talk to you. All right.
And you, mate.
All right. You take care. If you need anything, you just message me, okay?
Okay, mate. I'll let you know if I do.
Top
Have
man.
a good day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you for watching, everyone, and I will speak to you soon.